Quick sound check. Can everybody hear me loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Loud and clear, Coach Jay. Good to be back on this Monday before the big election. How are you doing
Happy
today?
Monday. Doing all right. Doing all right. Can't complain. Hopefully, everybody's doing all right as well. Let us know in the chat how your weekends were and how the first day of the week went for you. If you were up on the day, down on the day, maybe you didn't trade at all. Really, today kept it small. Maybe there's something you learned for the day. We got audio confirmations. We look good, sound good, and that's a win for the day. That is a win.
It's better to look good than to feel good. No, I won't.
Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay. Been a Topstep Performance Coach since June of 2023 and been trading for the past 12 years. Been in the futures markets for the past 5, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for a year and a half as a performance coach. I have 4 decades of experience in the futures industry. I'm here to share some of my experiences and knowledge and help you become a better trader. Let's get rolling, coach.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about these markets. I don't think there was much as far as news goes on the calendar, and if there was, it probably got oversighted by the big news that's coming out tomorrow. Um, we know that the elections are in the U.S. tomorrow, presidential elections, um, and that's probably what everyone's waiting for, as well as an FOMC rate decision later in the week. That is on November 7th, which is Thursday. So, not too much to report as far as news goes. We do have a 10-year auction uh, tomorrow, I believe that is. So, that could cause us some volatility. Today, we did have a factory orders number come out, but not much of an effect on the markets. Let's just get right into the charts. There are about 35 different markets that we can trade with Topstep accounts. At the buzzer, we like to focus on the biggest percentage movers. Sometimes they're not in the equities and presenting some other opportunities, especially on a week like this one where the equities might get a little crazy. You'll hear people saying, "Oh, I'm going to scale down," maybe not even trade them. Could be the week to scan around, see if there's another interesting market. But we have platinum to the downside at 1.16%, soybean oil down 1.64%, and micro Bitcoin futures down 2.6% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we have
Natural gas.
RBOB gasoline futures up 3.01%, crude oil up 3.27%, and like you just said it, Coach, nat gas number one 4.69% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. To round out our big four, we already talked about crude, 3.25 to the upside. We have gold down 0.14%, the ES down 0.2%, and the NASDAQ down 0.23% to round out our big four. Right now, I have a NASDAQ chart up, Coach. We took some trades in the house account today in the NASDAQ. Um, and I will pull up the moving averages. I'm looking at a 30-minute chart right now. We are below the 200 moving average. We've been below it since the end of last week and starting to consolidate a little bit. The 20 and the 50 kind of wrapped around each other. Um, Somewhat what we could expect, I guess, going into the big news we have out later this week. Not expecting much of a directional move in either direction before tomorrow. And we got a lot more of that today. We traded pretty much in Friday's range for the day. And that was about it. Coach, I know we have elections coming up. We're never going to talk about politics. When I'm sure you've traded multiple, uh, you know, election seasons before. How, if at all, do you change what you do in your process?
Well, first of all, the what is the priority? To preserve your capital. Um, It's in my experience, these days are it's not directionally violent. It's violently unchanged, or what I call very nervous. Today kind of showed that. Sharp rallies followed by sharp breaks, without going anywhere. So going into the election, I'm I'm not going to day trade anything, um, in the financials, equities or financials. Um, Also, if you're going to trade, pare down on your size, um, because it there's a very high probability that volatility will rise. When volatility rise, your position size to remain constant in risks needs to go down. Um, Also, not if you're feeling fear that this could happen, another great decision is don't trade. You don't have to trade. You know, that's a completely
It's an option.
good option. Um, if you feel you have to trade, which is you're gonna have to ask yourself why you have to trade, do something that is not related to financials, um, and then trade your plan. But um, the idea through this, even the best traders are going to market makers, big traders are going to pare down their size. That is about a 99% probability. So follow the lead. Your job is to follow your system and manage your risk and stay in the game. So that's my advice. How about you, coach?
Uh, I agree with a lot with what you just said. One thing we try to tell ourselves is to not have a bias, and we're not going to get into politics, but it's probably the easiest time to have a bias or an opinion about something. And I think it's a very easy way to allow that bias to cloud your decision making when trading. Uh, Regardless of who you want to win the election, who you want to lose the election, you know, put that aside. Um, I don't think any of us should be making trading decisions based on that, because we honestly don't know what the reaction is going to be. I think I heard them talking on Topstep TV the other day. I don't remember the last election, but the one prior to it, saying that there was a limit down move before the market eventually spiked up. You can't control that. Um, and if that's the candidate that you wanted to win, you could win that and blow your account. I'd much rather have my account, because at the end of the day, you know, that's more of a direct impact to me. So just protect your capital, protect your mental space as well. Uh, and if you do trade on a day like today, where there was maybe an opportunity during the New York session to catch a move to the downside really quick and then to the upside, um, don't sit at the charts all day. Uh, I'm not going to be. If I take a trade, it's going to be one and done. I'm good to go, and I'm not going to sit at the charts. Probably get outside. Weather's still trying to hold on to some nice warm days, um, so I will go enjoy that.
Great advice, coach. And remember, control the controllables. The only thing you really can control is you. So control yourself. And if you feel you can't, don't trade. That's okay. All right.
We have the 30-minute opening range here last night. Provided a decent trade. But the only thing I really want to point out here is the violence of of some of these moves. Um, let's actually go to the New York session open. We'll talk about the house account trade that the guys took this morning. A couple of trades, couple of shorts. And from my setup, it was a decent short early. just we didn't have much of a continuation, and we have this major 20,000 level right below us. I wore the bear costume on Halloween last week and said I wasn't taking it off until we hit 20,000. And I thought there was a possibility that we did it today. Um, but this strong rejection, coach, we see two very heavy candles, um, ton of volume, looks like it's going to just drop right through 20,000 and really strong rejection. We say it all the time. If sellers are this convinced about selling it, why not sell 20,000, right? You're not just going to stop here. That gave us a really strong reversal on this 3 minute. And I'm going to pull up the top step levels just as another shameless plug for these levels. We have 20,017, which was yesterday's low, yesterday meaning Friday. We can see the low of this move was 20,013. If you don't have the top step levels on your chart, his Royal Trades is going to ask you what you're doing. I saw you in the chat earlier today saying if you don't have the top step daily levels on your chart, you're doing yourself a disservice. And again, these are not suggestions to take a trade in any direction, but areas that we think the market has the potential to react to. And some of them are just, market generated information where it's Friday's low. But if you're not paying attention to Friday's low, or you don't want to do the research to try to go find what Friday's low was or the prior day, just throw the levels on there. We have them for Nasdaq, ES, crude oil, gold, and then we also have the Top Step daily levels website that myself, Coach Paul, Coach Ray, Coach Vince are all, and Coach Jack are all posting levels on. So make sure you check that out as well. Those are a little bit more. Uh, how would you say that, Coach? How do you define your levels?
My levels are daily levels of support and resistance. Um, they're used like in a range. Um, use them in a relative manner. The way I use the pivot is above it, below it. Um, it improves the probability of continuation to the upside or downside. And one thing that I really, if I'm short and I'm hitting a daily support level, you know, I'll cover and see how it goes from there. Those aren't baked in the goods. I use shorter term models and always remaining in the present because it's relative, right? It's how it gets to that level that I can use it to make better decisions. How about your levels, coach?
Uh, some of my levels are based on some type of volume analysis. More often than not, I think I got mine in late today, so I don't know that they made the site today. But 20,230 was a level that I had on there as a buy side imbalance. Um, the way I'm looking at it is areas of high volume. Where did they trade? And we often see the market return to those areas. Uh, high of the day was 20,226. My level was 230. I got to get better. But my levels are based on some type of volume analysis and then going from there. Um,
Yeah, here's another thing, coach. When I see a lot of a cluster of support and resistance by the coaches, I
it
really give that a lot of, it really means something.
was a lot of weight for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the best way of looking at them.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, because we talk about it all the time, right? When we're putting levels on there, we're not putting zones. We're putting an exact price, but you can almost build those zones with looking at that daily levels sheet, right? If we're looking at the Nasdaq and all of us, are within 8 to 15 points, it's a zone. Um,
yeah, that's a really good way to watch those levels.
100%. Anything else on the Nasdaq, Coach?
I noticed here
Yeah.
last night's trading and today's day trading have the same form. Spike to
Yep.
new lows within a couple hours, the new highs to get right back in the middle of the range. Um, that that was expected, and I think you can see that expectation for me come tomorrow. There's today I think is a day that can really cause problems for newer traders. The expectation is, follow through, and really it's just short term trades, imbalances get traded out real quick. I don't believe you're going to see large institutions make a decision on a day like today or tomorrow. It just wouldn't be prudent for them. So take that in consideration. That's why I'm really not trading it on a day trade. You don't get to trade options where you can limit your risk. So understand.
Limit your risk by making less decisions.
Yeah.
Uh, See one comment here from Tom. Coach Jay, Coach Paul, I used the order block at 20,083, waited for the retest at the 105 candle and went long. Was that a good trade? Well, if you're saying you got long right here, yes, it was an amazing trade. Um, and you took your profit at 183. Okay, so you hold on a second, Tom. When did you take that trade? So if you took it here, I don't know if you got 183, but if you took it here, then you did. And either way, that's a great trade. You saw something, put the position on. I hope you defined your risk to a point that you were okay losing and accepted it before you put the trade on. But nice trade.
Well, I would also say to that, was that your plan? Was that your system of trading? And then I would say it's a great trade.
Yep.
If you saw that and were just trying to make money and you made money and it wasn't part of a plan, I don't know, I would say then it's a C trade. Um, that only
Point.
you can answer that. You made money, that's a good trade. You could have lost money and that would be a good trade. But stay focused on executing your plan. That's how I would look at that.
Look at the S&Ps. Pretty much the same story. Uh, just kind of looking at these top step daily levels again and how I don't know if we're overfitting data. I don't think we are, because if you look at how the market responds around here, right around these zones, it means something, right? This green line up here was yesterday's point of control. Um, so it's not just a one-time check the level and oh look, it's the perfect wick. The market spent almost 45 minutes deciding whether or not it was going to trade above that level, and it couldn't do it. So uh, again, just really good stuff. We see the blue one, that's settlement. We rejected there a couple times as well, giving us a couple opportunities to trade. See where we are price wise. I just realized we're below 5,800 in the S&Ps. We closed below
Yeah,
it on Friday. Go ahead, coach.
S&Ps were definitely the weak um, sibling today.
Yep.
Um, felt very heavy. Um, and there's the daily. Where's that 50-day moving average? We're right there. I think we settled under it again. Um, boy, just looking at that, if I said there's no big election in the next day, um, I'd be favoring the short side. Um, with a possible chance in the next week or two getting to the 200. Um, but that's just what it looks like. I would trade to the downside with a plan, but we've spent 3 trading sessions right at that 50 without any good buying. Um, so boy, I think we have some downside from my perspective.
Just from a technical perspective, now of course anything can happen tomorrow, but closing under this 50, the way it looks like, that 200 moving average on the daily is about 4% away. Uh, Not saying that we'll get there tomorrow, but we haven't checked it in a little while, so wouldn't be surprised either, coach. Um, if you
That's a good
guys
point.
go
I
ahead.
just want to bring up it. Tomorrow's the voting. It's Wednesday where the action and what happens from the voting that's going to be more important. The key here is that at the indecision and the expectations that larger players are not going to partake in these swings. It just doesn't work that way from my experience.
I agree with you, Coach. Ashley Bedford has a question. Is it a good idea not to trade tomorrow, or is it Wednesday? It's going to go crazy. You kind of just answered that, Coach. A little bit of both. And we say that, and there's going to be people who trade either way and say, I don't care. Whatever you do, just manage your risk. You can trade any
Yeah,
day.
execute your plan.
Yep.
If you're going to do it, do it. But you just said a key phrase: manage your risk. Understand the underlying um, market is very prone to quick, sharp moves in both directions.
What else? If you guys have any questions, let us know. I will keep going through the markets. Not much more on the S&Ps. I'm kind of curious, actually, the Nasdaq. Oh, okay. We closed above the 50 moving average on the Nasdaq, but it looks very much the same. Let's go to gold. Let's go to gold. We know we made an all-time high in gold, 2801.80 last week, and since then we've kind of sold off. Doing it the way gold does it, 2 down days. Coach, I think I'm just gonna take your filter off. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, go on. It's
It's like
I'm
light show
trying
over here.
not to move.
Yeah. Here we go. We're just gonna go green screen. Look, there we go. Getting
All
behind the
right.
scenes. There we go. Um,
Little Boston Celtics look.
so gold likes to do this thing where it makes an all-time high, sells off pretty strong for 2 days, consolidates, and then continues up. We've seen it do this a couple of times in the past. And today, again, not much action. A market that is going to, you know, be affected by the same news that the equities markets are. So if we look at gold from last night, we have a range bound market. And if you're a range bound trader, here's your opportunity trying to fade the extremes of this range. Uh, yeah, not much action there. We're kind of consolidating around this 2750 for the past couple of days. Um,
Well, I found it interesting that it went to that VWAP from what that high was that the opening last night?
this one,
Yeah,
this was so. What news do we have? NFP on Friday? Yeah. So this is
yeah.
VWAP from NFP.
Okay. Yours is interesting if you put the VWAP from the contract highs. Any one of those will do. Yeah, we're still below that. I'm going to find that. I'm going to follow that one. Because look at that. We've honored that every time we've touched it. Wow.
It's a good.
Um, so that'll be key tomorrow. Um, but I think gold is going to be Wednesday. We'll see how the reaction, what happens. But didn't trade gold today. But I surely don't want to fade buying. I know that.
What we're talking about here, if you didn't catch it, was anchored VWAP from the all-time high, acting as a resistance on the way down, which presents. Does anyone else get these text messages reminding you that tomorrow's election day? These random text messages. I just got a text message from Gail. I don't have a Gail saved in my phone, but Gail just let me know that tomorrow's election day, and if I haven't done so already, to make sure I go and vote. Thanks, Gail.
Is there an election tomorrow?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Stan says they're very annoying. Um,
oh God, yeah. It just doesn't stop.
Uh,
Oh,
all right. Where was I? Oh, so since we did that, right? The S&Ps, let's do the same thing. Anchored VWAP from that all-time high that we made a couple weeks ago now, right?
yep.
59.27 quarter. This all-time high here. Right, some pretty strong selling. And we're getting somewhat extended from it, so I wouldn't be surprised at a reversion to it. But sellers in control since we made that all-time high, obviously. Um, all right, let's go to
Wow.
crude oil. Go ahead, coach.
Was there a big, what's that big volume spike today? Was that on the
This
opening?
you looking at this one here?
Yeah.
This was Thursday.
Oh,
This
was
was
that
Thursday
NF?
right before no, Thursday right before the earnings.
Oh, okay. That
Right
was
before
pretty
the
big
earnings.
volume.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, we've been in that range pretty much since then. Quick look outside of it, but been in that range. All right, let's go to crude oil. Crude gapped up
Yeah.
on the open. There were a bunch of gaps out there today, but crude gapped up. Here's the first 30-minute candle. Um, Look at that. Uh,
Wow. Yeah, I got caught in that on my swing trade. Um, but it's been gapping on over the weekend. This is the second weekend in a row. Um, Look at, we made that low off the get go. What was the news?
know that there was any news. Someone correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. I didn't see any news in crude. Oh wow, it's really interesting. We gapped up, opened up right at 50% of this huge gap down. OPEC, Coach Hoop. Coach Hoop, if you can just give a quick headline in the chat what it was, but we gapped up 50% of this sell off that we saw last week and just finally closed the gap price wise.
So now we'll probably gap down tomorrow, as crude is apt to do. But it was a pretty decent rally. Um, did it break that trend line from the top?
The
Oh yeah.
to a let's go out to an hourly
Uh,
and
yeah, you had it. It was good. Yep. So interesting movement there. Um, Although um, we're still in that range, are we not? From the first week of the year. Um, and that could be very good trading for a lot of traders. I'm not, but you know,
I will never forget. We talked about this gap down last week, and there was that trader that mentioned that $72 was where the high of the range where the U.S. was filling oil reserves. So I'm watching the $72 level in crude oil.
at it.
Remember the last time we were up there, Coach? I don't remember what the size of the order was, but it was a couple hundred at 72 even. Um, Going into tomorrow,
Yeah,
I want to see if that order's still out there.
yeah, I remember that. So
Uh, And I think we just went through all the markets. Again, I didn't trade much at all today. I don't think Coach Paul did either. So if
no,
there are any markets that you guys do want to discuss, if there's anything that was moving, Coach, I'll ask you if there's anything on your scouting report that you are looking at. I do see the bonds are up pretty big.
yeah, let's look at the bonds. They gapped up much like it looked a lot like crude.
You want to look at the 30 or the
Yeah,
10?
they're
Oh
all
yeah.
basically looking the same.
Oh, there you go.
Uh,
Yeah. So most of that move was the gap up.
Yep, came back, tested it, hasn't filled it. Um, but here, the theme has been volatility, wicked moves in two directions, and to me, that's wicked volatility. It's not like there's a. I mean, we finished at the lows of the day on Friday. Gap open, try to rally, come back. There's not. I mean, it's that is to me is a definition of nervous market. The overall trend is still down. We put the 200 moving average. Um,
We tested a couple times.
yep. It's interesting that 30-year has the 10-year and the 5-year are even weaker looking. But what do we have coming up in the next couple days? One thing we haven't mentioned today, not only is there an election,
A
there's
rate
an
decision.
FOM, we had a rate decision. So throw a little gas on the fire. Um, then this is what you got in front of it. So overall, if we look at the daily, this is still in a bear market with what looks to appear some short covering, um, and making for some movement. Um, but here we're going sideways since Thursday.
Now, speaking of that rate decision, looking at Fed Watch right now, 98% probability of a 25 basis point cut on Thursday, right?
All
And
right.
if I if we if rates get cut, prices should go up, right, coach? The operative word there being should.
Should.
The last time we got a rate cut, this happened. So, um, interesting stuff
Yeah.
here. Interesting
Yeah,
stuff.
that's why trading your plan and focusing on your plan, or your system. The worst thing about a system is not following it. So whatever it is, your plan, your system, whatever you want to call it, when you don't follow it, that's where trouble comes. Um, if trading fundamentals that they cut rates and bonds should rally, well, if that was your plan and then that you didn't follow it and you just held on, you have a pretty big loss. Why I bring that up is I, basing projection and basing your trades on prediction or projection is very susceptible to big losses. So in this environment, focus on your plan.
We got. I see some requests in the chat for a couple different markets. I see Jill made a platinum trade today. We got some copper as well, and someone asked for wheat analysis. If we have time at the end, but if you guys do have any questions for us while we're here, let us know. If not, we can also end it early. Again, not too much trading. Copper has been a really great market to trade, and it's been in this higher time frame range. I know Deanna, I was on the London session this morning with Deanna. Deanna's been trading copper a lot, kind of up near the highs of this range. If we just zoom out on a 30-minute chart and we look at these moving averages, they're all kind of wrapped around each other, which is telling us there's really no direction in this market right now. But with that being said, it's a really nice range to trade. Uh, we're starting to get some extensions towards the high of this range, right? We were really choppy. We extended, but if we stay here, then there's potential. And again, anything we talk about is for educational purposes, not for any suggestions to take a trade. But if we're going to continue to repeat this pattern, we may fall back into this range if buyers don't step in. Now, the one thing I am looking at is uh, coach this 20 and the 50 moving average. We're finally getting some separation between the two for the first time in
Oh, wow.
2 weeks. So we may be breaking up to the upside. Go ahead.
Boy, I look at that chart and I see for my style. That's why
Mhm.
I don't trade it. I've traded it many times, mostly for hedging. But we did break out of that. Um, but how do you know when it's going to break out? I don't.
No.
Um, uh, now, here's another. They're looking at a trend line from the highs. We broke the trend line downside. Um,
3 points, right?
both of those, yeah, and a one by
Maybe I'll use
one.
this.
Um, can this continue? Oh, it looks like it. It's made here. Look, we've had the big break. We based out and broke out. The way I look at it for to continue is to start looking at the moving averages. They should not violate the 50 um, if it's going to continue in this. Um, and obviously not the 200. But that was a nice base after a big break. Um, interesting. Copper is heavily influenced by Chinese news. Um, so I don't know what the news was. Don't care, but decent breakout. But still, look at that viciousness of that sideways market.
Which give me 1 second, I'll be right back. If you
All
want me to
right.
switch it to another market while we're here, I just need to talk to some contractors real quick.
Okay.
Any other market?
So hey, why don't you bring up the platinum?
Platinum.
We'll
All
bring it
right,
up.
here's platinum on a 30. We got your moving averages up there. I'll be right back.
Okay. So who traded platinum today? And there we go. We had break late in the day. Um, once again, this market broke hard on Friday. Last night we rallied a little bit off the opening on actually was I looked at it last night. I was short. I think it did gap open a little bit to the upside. Um, but once again, we're under the 200 bar moving average. Um, once we got under VWAP from last night's opening, because I remember looking at that, I did get out of a short on a swing. Missed that downside. Looks heavy. Um, but wow, rallies are to be sold. But look at they had chance on both sides. Whoever traded platinum, tell us what you saw. Um, and to add to this, but platinum to me looks very heavy. Now, platinum. Oh, I'll give you a little background. Platinum, and when I first started in the business, was twice the price of gold. So this is like 1980. Platinum is now a third of the price of gold almost. Um, so it's being there's plenty of supply. I really the fundamentals in gold versus platinum are reflecting that gold is the choice for central banks. Um, that is a flight to safety. On copper and platinum are industrial metals. Um, indus- they're still driven by industry. So that spread between gold and platinum, maybe I'll put it together a spread chart, but um, from until it breaks, just buy the gold, sell platinum rallies. This is a half hour bar, so um, maybe a little long for your day trading, but it gives us a good idea of the trend in the short term. That 200 moving average was way above. We defined sell the rally. We had the rally overnight, broke down VWAP back into the opening half an hour range. But, maybe we go down to a 5-minute bar, see if there's a better. Yeah, that's a little bit. So on a day trade, I think the 5-minute or the 3-minute is a better time frame to execute from. using the half an hour and then executing it in the 5 minutes. There were some great trades there, at least to the downside. But that's the one I'm looking at it because I was raised on trend trading. Um, if you bought that, I don't know, there's good opportunity to buy it. We broke out of that 5 minute opening range. VWAP followed, but it got heavy. There was a little bit of money. You could have scratched the day, but this is kind of the theme, isn't it? See, this is a theme, and it's funny we'll bring that up. See money, take money. That's what this means. What, and I think that what is really don't have large expectations for a big move.
Any other markets we want to talk about?
Oh,
I'm just
silver.
scanning silver.
That's
I'm
probably
scanning the chat right. Very similar.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Silver when it on those good days, it's like, oh, I love silver. And then the other 90% of the time, it's this barcoding. Um, I find it a very tough market to day trade consistently.
I won't touch silver much. If I'm going to trade an outside metal right now, I'll default to platinum, and then if not, copper. But even then, I haven't taken many copper trades either. Silver is just to me too big of a contract to trade, and it did present a decent opportunity. Here's that urgency trade, coach, early on.
Yeah.
And if Millions Tick is here, sent me a message in Discord and says, "Hey, is this the urgency trade?" It's like, it is. It is, and it played out really well on silver. This is a pretty nice move. You got about a 1% move to the upside up to these 33s, which on silver that's a pretty big move. $25 a contract, $5 with the micros, but uh, very similar to the other markets.
Yeah. That actually, platinum and silver seem to be
Tied to each other.
tied to each other a little bit because they're not gold.
Yep.
So,
Let's see. We got about 15 minutes left, or if we want to cut it early,
um,
we can do that as well. Let's see. You see any questions in the chat, coach?
yeah, bruh hits sushi. If I read that right.
Okay.
Today I hit my personal daily loss limit at $300 on my combine. I was long, and it ended up going towards my way, but we got a big fat red candle to drop my profit in half. I pulled before a big move in my direction. Let me see if I got that right.
I think I got it.
Okay,
Uh,
go ahead, coach.
So what you hit your personal daily loss limit. You were in a long. It ended up going your way, but before it went your way, you got a red candle in the opposite direction. You took the trade off before it. Well, you got stopped out at your personal daily loss limit before uh, it went in your direction. That's trading. That's
Well,
trading
I would
now.
tell you that that might be I don't know your whole system,
Hmm.
but you limited your risk.
Yep.
There was a violent, and if you were trading indices, which sounds like you were, that's why paring down. That's a great question and a good example. Because you said the big red candle came and got you. Well, that's what violently unchanged definition is. Pare down. But what I didn't hear you say, and I like this, is you didn't come back in to try and get it back. And, coach, you just said it. That's trading.
Broad Sushi says you were trading ES. Was that ES or micro ES on a 50K combine? The one thing I'll say is that 300 personal daily loss limit on a 50K combine, great. with trading ES, you have to be right about everything. You have to be right about direction, location, and timing to trade with a $300 uh, daily loss limit trading ES. If you're trading MES, a little bit different.
Yeah, position sizing, and maybe it is either, and this is a classic example. This is kind of the theme today. This is what happens in what I'll call thin, volatile markets. It's, turbulence. It's really what it is. I mean, it is the definition of turbulence. If you want to continue to trade, if you were taking half that, taking 5 micros, you would have cut your loss in half, or maybe you didn't get stopped out. I don't know enough about your trading system or plan, but it's a great reason to trade half the size of your usual risk.
And asking a follow up question to this. So, should I try moving to NQ or move to MES? Based on what Coach Paul just said, you answer that question for yourself. There's one answer to that question. MES.
Maybe I can put it in another way is cut your exposure in half. I don't know, it's a better phrase. Size your exposure. So what are you exposed to? Violent short-term moves against you. Who experienced that today? Yeah.
You made the right call, which is right. Even though it was a losing trade, you made the right call where the market eventually went in your direction. Um, just the size that you were trading didn't allow for you to be in that trade. Um, and sometimes people take this sometimes as an ego hit where, oh man, I have to scale down. It's better than losing trades that eventually go in your direction. So, um, nice read on it, on seeing what the market eventually did. Do what you can in your account to be a part of those nice reads that you make. But great risk management as well.
Yeah. I have to commend you for taking your 300 day DLL where you could get into really big trouble is if you did the 1,000 to 50% DLL, you're really in a hole where you can't afford to be wrong. So great risk management. I'll put it there. But I would suggest cutting your size in half. Ego has no place in trading. It's your arch enemy, my arch enemy. Um, truly, we're here. You know, we're here to manage our account, manage our risk, manage our emotions. Um, when your ego is out in front, it's like I can't. I I got to make money. I don't want to be, and I know I've done it. It rarely, if ever, works, especially over time.
Paul wants to know, when do we start to see election results coming in? During slow markets. During slow markets time, we'll start to see some coming in. So Dakota and Nick are going to be on slow markets tomorrow. So around that time, we'll start to hear results from different places. But the final result, probably like you said, Coach, won't be out until sometime in the middle of the morning for us. If maybe tomorrow night, it depends on how things come in. Um, depends on how things come in.
Yeah, and there was an earlier question about it will gold be affected by the election? Most likely, yes. Um, and in that same vein as indices, um, but I believe that it we won't see that. About uh, Coach D. That's probably going to be that if there's going to be some problems. I think Wednesday is the day where it's really going to start getting some energy. I don't know what direction, but it's going to bring some energy Wednesday when things start to happen. Good question.
Um, Got a question from Richard Harris. Jay, what's going on with the house account? Holy moly. So you saw the house account took a loss today. Losing trades happen. Um, I want to put this out there because, Coach, I had a session with some VIPs this weekend where we did a little bit of replay trading. But what I did was I shared my trading view chart, and I had the traders, and it was two of them. I had them call out when they wanted to take a trade, and I was clicking the button for them, right? And the reason we did that was because you unless you clearly say what it is that you want me to do, there's not a trade that's going to happen, right? So I need to know where your risk is, where your entry is, where your exit is, and if you don't clearly define it, then nothing happens. Um, I would say, if you guys can, if you get a trading buddy or something like that, try it, right? Try it out. That's exactly what we have to do with the house account with 10 times the size sometimes, right? Because we want to trade 15, 20, sometimes 30 contracts. It's a difficult process. And then you're collecting four different people's thoughts, or sometimes two different people's thoughts, three different people's thoughts to try to get into one. It's probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in trading, um, where it's, it's not just my idea. We have to collectively get to an idea, and it's a challenge. And sometimes it's going to work really well, and sometimes it's not. And I think it worked well today in the sense that the risk was managed. We got nowhere near the daily loss limit the uh, on the account, and it was a losing day. They were trading with some size, and it happens. I think last week we had a pretty good week. I think the account was up about 9 grand last week. It's one losing day, but I think that process is going to continue as it has been.
And remember, it's the size of the account is not a couple $1,000s. It's a it's relative. So it's a difficult thing to do. Um, but one other thing is focus on what you can do. Um, that's really at who you're accountable for the performance. So I myself, I watch. I make it a practice to focus on what I need to do for my accounts. Um, and sometimes people love to see people lose.
It's
I,
fun. It's fun. And that's why sometimes when you win, you got to give it back. But I don't even get into that. It is what it is. Coach Paul, you got a question here from Nelson. As a young trader, what was your routine before trading, and have you adjusted anything to trade current markets?
oh wow, great question. Yeah, my routine when I was a younger trader was to get all the fundamental information that I could get, um, and project or predict where the market should go. Um, when I was much younger, in the pit was a different style. Um, there's two ways to do it, or you could just let some people did two ways: trade in the pit the order flow. What that meant is see who was dominating the action and go in that direction, and never ever give away an edge. An edge was the market 7-8, you bid 7. If you got filled, this is pure scalping. You offer eights for 5, 6, 7 seconds and try and scratch. If it won 8 bid, you hold it. 9 bid, you hold it. And that's the way pure scalping was done. Because being there, you were close to volume, and that was the edge. But position trading or longer term trading or even the day where I got caught up was trying to get the bigger move all the time. And I based that on knowing every fundamental, whatever market I was in, with no risk management as relates to my equity. That was the biggest adjustment I had to make. And you can, and that's still here. We see all on the Twitterverse and YouTube, great winners. I killed it today. I don't, I don't know the size of the account they're trading. I don't know what the risk was, right? But you don't hear, wow, I really took a beating today. I didn't follow my rules. I didn't risk manage. No, no one wants to get out there and advertise that. Yet it happens how many times in our accounts? So my biggest adjustment was number one, learning how to lose, especially when you're young.
Yeah.
You just want to be right. Learning how to lose is learning how to manage accounts, risk management, and then over time, instead of fundamentals, I went to technicals, and found it. Then I could start managing my risk more better and not try to predict where the market could go, should go, might go,
I
hope
need
it
it to go.
goes where I need it to go.
Yep.
And having, and one last thing is position sizing. It depended on how I felt. I really need this money. I'm gonna do a 10 lot. This is not. I'm not kidding you. How can you get any type of consistency if your position sizing changes all the time? So, biggest thing is learning position sizing is a function of risk management, which is a function of managing your equity.
There's a question here. I do need to end soon because I am getting a phone call that I need to take. But there's a question here from Greatest Ever. It says, how do you feel about the idea that accepting losses gets you used to them in a negative sense? If accepting losses has any negative connotation to it, the losses are just too big, right?
Yeah,
If you accepting losses has any kind of negative connotation to it, uh, it's because the losses that you're taking don't um, right. You're probably just gamifying it at that point, right? Oh, I'll just take this loss and reset an account. If we're talking about combines and things like that, um, I think you have to learn how to take a loss. Um, you have to learn how to
yeah,
take a loss. I almost would say you have to know what your strategy looks like. Let's say this anchored VWAP, opening range breakout strategy works 60% of the time. I want to know exactly what the 40% of the time that it's not going to work. I want to know what that looks like too. Um, so I don't know. I think as long as you're accepting reasonable losses, I don't see any negative to it.
love your losers. Learn how to lose. That doesn't mean you're a loser. That's where the ego comes in. And I went through this. Like, it's not a loser until I get out. Okay, what's going to happen? Either you're going to blow up the account or you're going to get rewarded for doing the wrong thing. Over a longer period of time, it's going to come back and get you. And it's not just me. Go and study wizards, market wizards. Every one of these guys blew up accounts until they said, holy shit, I can't continue to do this.
Right.
So, great question.
All right. I have nothing else. Coach, you got any words before we go?
Um, just to review what we talked about, if you're going to be trading tomorrow, a wise thing to do is pare down your size at least by half and take winners, take see money, take money, or also an option is don't trade. It's a
I love
very
that
good
option.
option.
I love that
Yeah.
option. Um, I got nothing else. Remember that we do have classes in Discord all the time. Coach Hoop, Coach Ray, Coach Vince, 4:30 Central, 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. And then of course we have Coach Dakota with slow markets at 7:30. And then Deanna with the London session at 3:30 Central Time. Nick Fortick with the market kickoff at 4:45 every Sunday. We may have another guest on At the Buzzer this week, just sending some contracts over to their people. Um, and we'll go from there. Um, but stay tuned. We may have another guest on At the Buzzer. But that's it. That's all I got. Thank you everyone for joining. Make sure you hit that like button. If you haven't done so already, make sure you get out and vote. I don't care for who. Just practice your duties or not. Right? Don't vote if you don't want to. But thank you everyone for joining. Hit that like button, Coach. Thanks as always. Great session. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.